clip of the day.
Let me lead us into this. I'm very curious to hear your clips. The Volkswagen Discovery, which really, man, I'm getting so many emails from Germany about how disastrous this really is. This is going to put Germany into a recession, is the general thinking. But there's something much bigger going on. This will be my leading clip, and I want you to take it over, John.
The demand growth for diesel slowed down, and demand growth for gasoline started to increase a little bit globally. And what's interesting is that was against the narrative that quite a lot of people expected.
In 2014, diesel cars made up more than half of passenger fleet sales in Europe. But concerns over diesel's clean credentials have grown recently, particularly over its higher sulfur emissions.
Quite a lot of European car makers were focused on diesel because that has been the fuel of choice. European governments have given diesel many benefits in terms of tax treatments. So for European car makers, it could be a change if this does feed through into the consumer side and consumers start choosing more gasoline cars as a result of this.
The tide of opinion had already started to turn on the continent. The mayor of Paris announcing plans to ban diesel engines in the French capital by 2020 as part of a plan to fight pollution, with other European countries beginning to rethink incentives such as tax breaks. The European Parliament voted Wednesday to tighten pollution rules. Car makers in the bloc could be forced into a strategic U-turn if demand for diesel completely stalls.
Now, before we get into your clips and your analysis, from what I understand, the whistleblower on this was some Silicon Valley electric car company strategy consultancy, who were probably thinking, oh, this would be great. We can screw everybody. They all go buy electric cars. But I think that
I like the idea that was what was going on, but
it seems much larger. It seems much larger.
There's an element that was complete. I don't know, where'd you get that clip?
That is from Reuters.
That clip it's a great clip because it just shows you the manipulation of the media.
Yes.
In a big way, because that clip left out the most important element of the story. Now, we might as well do a whole history. The long clip I have here, for starters. I have 3 clips, but this is the long history, great clip, it says. And this is the bomb is dropped in here. Now, this is the only people that covered this was BBC Newsweek, or NewsHour, whatever that thing is they play once a week. And they were adamant about pointing the problem out. Why are all these diesel cars being manufactured? Why are all these diesel cars? And I would give a little air pollution information at the end about these cars.
Wasn't diesel fuel in Europe? Certainly, it was supposed to be, the solution to everything.
No, it was not the solution to everything. And you can play the clip right after I say this. It was the solution to global warming.
The change started in the oil refining industry. A barrel of oil produces about 19 gallons of petrol, but as a byproduct, it also yields about 12 gallons of diesel fuel. Once, that diesel fuel was mainly used in oil-fired power stations. But as Europe shifted away from them, the market was oversupplied with diesel, lowering its cost as a car fuel. Policymakers embraced it. Diesel produces fewer CO2 carbon emissions than petrol, and a series of European Commission regulations in the early 90s favoured it. Then in the late 90s, taxes on diesel vehicles were cut. More diesel was seen as a way to cut back on CO2. On one level, what happened in the European car market in the 90s and 2000s was a huge public policy success. Policymakers wanted consumers to buy more diesel cars, and by working with the underlying economics, changing taxes and tweaking regulations, they turbocharged the trend. More people now drive diesel cars. That's brought down CO2 emissions, but it's come at a cost. And people now are looking back and asking, did they make the right decision?
The preference for diesel and a CO2-focused emissions standard was the worst policy mistake in the EU of the 1990s and the 2000s, and we're going to live with the consequences for a long time. The Japanese and the Americans sensibly listened to the experts who said diesel is dirty because of nitrous oxide and particulate emissions. The European Commission listened to the industry, the European industry, which wanted diesel for marketing reasons.
authorities clamp down on diesel lorries belching smoke and smell.
We've known for a long time that diesel can be dirty, but in the 90s the focus was firmly on CO2, not air quality. As diesel's market share has risen, so too is air pollution.
Okay, good backgrounder. I didn't realize that it was the solution to global warming.
Yeah, another one of these failed policies because people are clueless.
Yeah, NOx, is that nitrous oxide? NOx?
Yeah, NOx, and let me explain this a little bit. This is the substance that causes air pollution, photoreactive air pollution that gets in the air. It gets into a bowl area like Los Angeles Basin.
And it creates smog. It creates smog.
Smog,
right.
The sun pounds on it and it turns brown, which is a version of the gas.
It's not pretty.
It's gaseous nitric acid. Yeah. It's horrible for you, and it's terrible stuff. And it's true air pollution. Now, we have been told, of course, that the CO2 somehow is air pollution. It's not.
It's carbon pollution. Carbon pollution.
Right. Carbon pollution is not air pollution. This is the bad stuff. And you can smell it on a lot of cars when it goes by. I'm very sensitive to it myself. Now, this NOx comes out of regular gas pipes too, but most gasoline cars have a catalytic converter. That's what it's there for. The catalytic converter that's between the muffler and
it removes the NOx.
It sucks the NOx out. It's got platinum in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why you can't just put a catalytic converter on a diesel car, I believe, and I don't know this, and I'm looking into it.
I think it's a performance issue. The pressure of the exhaust is much more exact, I believe.
I think you can deal with that. I think the problem is that there's so much soot, the particulate in diesel exhaust, that it clogs the catalytic converter and doesn't allow it to work.
Okay.
That's my belief.
Mm-hmm.
That's just off the top of my head. I don't know what the deal is, because it would seem to me you could dream up some sort of catalytic converter, retrofit all these diesel engines with that, and that would solve the problem that they're having, because they're going to have to remove these engines or something. We don't know what's going to go on.
I'm even seeing on the Airstream forums people freaking out because they bought they bought a Volkswagen to drag their Airstream around, like, now I'm going to get the switch back and I won't be able to to drag as much weight, and the consumers are very, very worried about this.
Yeah. Now here's the kicker, and this is the thing that got me on this story, because of something you said with this about about this being, why now? You asked on the last show, why now?
My initial, I'll just retread. My initial reaction was, okay, Germany is saying, we'll bring in all the good Syrians. We're going to, come on in. They have effectively opened up the gates for all of Europe for these migrants to be trudging through on their way to Germany. But let's face it, they're Germans. The people hate the Germans, so let's screw with the Germans.
Well, I can't prove that, but I can prove one thing. This scam was known about in 2014.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that this was already known?
Play diesel scam known in 2014.
I feel like I need a drum roll before this.
Software in some of its cars to cheat U.S. emissions tests. Well, apparently this particular dirty little secret was not so secret after all. Here's a clip from Newsnight from December last year, when our technology editor, David Grossman, reported on car companies enhancing their test results.
The car is actually able to detect that it's being tested because it's on a standard test cycle. And they can use that to put the car into a mode in which the engine is ultra efficient, or to reduce the sort of pollution that's coming out of the exhaust pipe during the test.
Wait. The car will know it's being tested and therefore will perform in a completely atypical way.
Yeah.
Huh. Now, this was from BBC?
Again, the Newsnight's the show. I keep saying Newsnight, whatever.
Newsnight, yeah.
Newsnight. This is from the BBC, Newsnight, December 2014. All revealed. The scam was up.
Okay.
So why does nobody do anything for, 9 months?
You know why? Because they were all waiting for me to find the Clip of the Day jingle. That's why. Oh, God. Are you kidding me? So of course, if something like that doesn't get any traction, and you could surely see why Volkswagen or Audi, it's all the same company, would want to, suppress that. But the news media had nothing to gain, and now they have something to gain by effing Germany. Like, screw the Germans, just screw them all. And I think it's a big FU to Europe too. You know how many companies rely on pieces of the think of the American automotive industry. We had to bail them. We had to save them. That's how important it was.
Yeah, no, this is massive. So let's do the diesel in the EU final. This is a bunch of guys at the round table on Newsnight just discussing it a little bit more and emphasizing things a little bit more so you can walk away with something to think about.
You have drawn a lot of attention to how bad air is in some cities. Did Europe make a mistake in pursuing diesel?
Well, it's easy to say, as we did with hindsight. At the time, primacy of policy was climate change. It was the big unsolved problem. The reason we went for diesel was because we thought the regulations would work. The regulations were going to become increasingly stringent. We thought they would work and reduce emissions. With hindsight, it's turned out that was a mistake, that they didn't.
And is it correct to say that as a result of that mistake, thousands of people have died?
In broad terms, we can say yes. I wouldn't like to put a figure on it, but it's probably fairly large. And it's a statistical association. As we say, you don't see died of air pollution on the death certificate, but there's a strong evidence case for the association between these pollutants and premature death.
We're all gonna die! The Germans have killed people. Surprise.
Of course, with gas.
With gas.
With gas.
Good work. Oh, man. Oh, no.